Hello world! I originally did this as one video, but I realized it was way too long. I think really what this is what I wish I knew when I started as a software developer. So here it is. The first part is gonna be about problem solving and asking questions. The second will be about communication and learning. The third is a tiny bit more technical and about like productivity tools and source control, and just a final few pieces of advice that I wish I knew. So let's get into it. Learning computer science, the focus really is on algorithms, data structures, logic. And these things are super important for sure. You don't need them really, I think, when you get into the workforce, but having the knowledge about them makes you feel like your toolbox as a software developer is more complete. But if you've ever had if you had a class in university, or if you didn't take university, you took a boot camp or whatever you did, about like teamwork and collaboration and bringing a product from beginning stages to the end, that's really what it is to be a software developer. So I'm coming from working at a medium-sized company for about 2 years. I've had the same job since I graduated. The first is general problem-solving skills. Every task as a software developer, and I think in any job really, involves problem solving. Whether it be like creating a new feature, solving for a bug, writing documentation, communicating with team members, it's all about problem solving. It's something so inherent, not just in software development, that it's worth it to take the time to learn and get better at. I think this is something that just comes with experience and practice, as long as you let yourself learn through each iteration. Maybe you'll notice that solving a bug might have taken too long one time. Then when you're finished that project, you can take a step back and think, okay, how could I have done that better? In which areas could I have saved a few seconds, a few minutes? Where did I spend a bit too much time going down the rabbit hole on? And so you essentially can evaluate where the pain points are, so that when you do it next time, you don't fall into the same traps. But this is all general advice that you probably know, but there are also practical things that you can do to move yourself along. This is where things like LeetCode or Brilliant or stuff like that, come in, that give your brain a little bit of exercise. Personally, right now, I don't do those things. I associate them with interview anxiety, or you could build your own small passion project, or you can read one of my favorite books that I've ever read, Problem Solving 101 by Ken Watanabe. I don't know how to say his name, I'm sorry. But after I read this book, I truly, I'm not exaggerating, I felt like I could tackle any problem that came at me. Now, I truly believe that whatever problem comes to me, I can solve it. And yes, it might be a bit naive to think that way. After reading one book, it just gave my problem solving confidence such a boost, so I highly recommend it. It's literally obvious stuff. This book was written for children, but the way that he words things just makes you feel like, okay, I have a formula. I have steps that I can take and tangible things I can use to solve a problem. Still, the problem may be difficult to solve, of course, but just having this gives you a sense of security that I didn't have before I read the book. I think even just being on your radar is grounds for improvement. The next thing is to ask questions all the time, especially when you're starting out. You're gonna know nothing about nothing, and that's a-okay. There's nothing worse than a beginner who fronts like they aren't. Say you already have the job, you did it, you're there. Now try not to hinder your own growth by getting caught up in showcasing that you know it all, rather than just getting vulnerable about the things you don't know. Most people want to help you out. It makes them feel good, it'll make you feel good, and it'll help you ultimately become a better developer. So yeah, ask questions, especially for setup. Those are the type of things that you could spend hours on, but just asking someone will solve your problem within 2 minutes. Oh, it's too bright now. There might be a cloud coming soon. Okay, sorry, I closed the blinds because it was just getting a bit too sunny and I didn't want to wait for another cloud to come. Something we emphasize really hard at my company is that if something is going to take you 2 hours but take you 10 to 15 minutes, if you just ask somebody, then it's far more worth it to ask. Please ask. It's better to look silly for a second while you're asking a question than to look silly for days when you haven't solved a problem because you got caught up in this one thing that you couldn't figure out. And I know because I've done that. I've done that and it's not fun. The next thing is related to this topic of asking for help, which is to learn how to ask for help efficiently. I know I emphasized ask, make sure you ask. But before you do, there's a few things I think you should ask yourself before bringing it to somebody. And those things are, have you done everything in your power within reason to try to answer this question yourself? Make sure that when you approach this person, the first suggestion that you think they'll give, you've already tried. Is this something that asking someone could save you a significant amount of time, like I mentioned earlier? And if the answer to those questions are yes, then ask away. When it comes to phrasing the question, I know there's a lot of resources online about how to do this well. For example, the XY problem. So my advice for this would be to try to give a little bit of context. Just remember that not everyone knows what you're talking about when you start describing a problem. So make sure now the cloud comes back. Also, providing examples and resources are invaluable. Examples especially. They're just so illuminating. One example, honestly, is worth 1,000 explanations. Just made that up, but I think it works. So after explaining what your problem is, make sure that you can let them make the full diagnosis by explaining, every nook and cranny of the problem that you've discovered already. After that, you also have the option of telling them what you've tried to remedy it so that maybe you don't waste any back and forth with them suggesting things that you've already done. And that brings me to the end of part 1. If you're just starting out, let me know if this helps you. And feel free to check out the other parts if you found this helpful. If you've been at it for a while, let me know what advice you would want to give to your younger self, because I would love to know. I love having these types of discussions. And that's all. I'll see you in the next one.